Brent, who has an amazing record with our race walkers. Olympic gold medals, silver medals, the rest of it. Okay, we had a great championship at the Commonwealth Games with gold medals for both women's and men's race walk, with Brent coaching Jemima and the women's. A lot of the talk I've had with Jared in recent times has been all around some of the preparation he did with Brent and lead up to things like Beijing, and it's undoubtedly something that made a huge impact on the performance there. And I think allowing Brent the opportunity to share with you all some of the strategies he's put in place and some of the thoughts on how we might approach the coming championships, I think is invaluable. So I really look forward to listening in on this one, and hope you all learn a great deal. Thanks.
Thank you. While Adam's sorting out my screen, I'll just start by saying I started this in 2004. I went to the Athens Olympics, and we all know that Athens is a very, very hot place to compete, and particularly in the out-of-stadium events is mainly what I'm going to focus on here, because we're talking about 80, 90-minute events for the walks, and 2 hours 15, 2 hours 30 for the marathons, and up to 4 hours in the 50k walk. So the heat and environmental conditions affect those events more than they do most of the in-stadium track and field events, and even some of the distance events inside the stadium are affected less by the conditions, although they are. So the way we started for 2004, I don't know how it's not lit up so well there, but we'll get to it, okay, it'll warm up. So in 2004, when I coached Nathan Zeeks, he got a bronze medal at that particular Olympic Games. I look back on it now and think if we did things differently, I think he could have won gold a little more comfortably. So as a young coach, we probably weren't doing things as well as we did as we moved on, and I got a bit more inventive and creative and started to use a lot of the knowledge we had in and around the AIS, which was where I was employed at the time. And Nathan personally had this belief that, well, we come from a hot country, so we don't really need to do a lot of it. Having said that, we did get unseasonably warm weather when we came down from altitude, and we spent a 10 to 14 day period in Germany, and not a terribly hot place in the world, but we just pushed back start times a little later in the morning, and we were still out training in high 20s, low 30s, and that was good enough for what we were doing in Athens at the time. Incidentally, we were beaten by 2 athletes at the time who had, I believe, and found out retrospectively, that they had very, very good altitude and heat models that were better than what we did. And it was after hearing about those stories we decided to do things slightly differently. Jemima Montag was a very, very good story for us after the Commonwealth Games, because one of the things that we do have on Jemima was we actually made her, we had a temperature pill inside Jemima at the time, and we've got core temperature values of what happened during the race for Jemima. So thanks to Jemima, it's very good when you coach a young athlete. I generally do what their coach says, so I'm not at the stage with Jemima where she's going to question everything we want to do with it. So if I say, we'd like you to do this before the race, she just says, "On to your beauty," and away we go. We also know this is a very, very famous image from the Commonwealth Games in the marathon. Now, great for Australia because we come away with the gold medal. But I can tell you, leading into the Commonwealth Games, none of us were expecting based on historical averages of 22 degrees as a max, none of us really factored in radiant heat being in the mid-morning sun in a state that doesn't have daylight savings, and the sun's up at 5 AM, and I can tell you that place on the 2 warmest days were when the girls were doing the walks and when the marathons, and they staggered the marathon time, so by the time the men rolled around, the conditions, and anyone who was standing on the side of the road didn't have to be running to tell you how difficult those conditions were. I also coached the athlete who was second in the women's 3k walk from New Zealand, so they did train together, so we got core temperature values on both of those. And I don't mind telling you that Jemima is athlete A, and we hit a core temperature of 41 degrees. Now, that is above anything that we can get ethics approval for when we run a heat study. So if you get above 40, we actually have to stop you exercising. So we started to do things like measure core temperature on the 6th rep and ignore the 7th and 8th, knowing that you might get above 40 just to squeeze those extra reps in. But a 41-degree core temperature in a race where she did significantly drop pace over the last 5 kilometres, but comparatively to the rest of the field, she increased her gap. So the other athlete is a New Zealand athlete, Alana Barber. A few more years' experience, has been in her senior team now for 4 years, and I think Jemima hits those really peak temperatures a lot earlier and gets to a lot higher temperature because as a young athlete, she hasn't done a lot of 1 hour, 70, 80-minute sessions in high heat before. So I think, and what we expect to see over the next few years is her make some positive adaptations where she's not going to hit those temperatures. And even in the high temperature and humidity races, we don't want her slowing down over the last 5K because that's not going to be the racing pattern of what we're going to face in Doha and Tokyo. As Craig mentioned, at the conclusion of World Juniors, I took the 3 walkers that we had, and we had a very successful World Juniors. We took them home via Wakayama because this was going to be their only chance to experience, if they are lucky enough to make the Tokyo Olympics, it'll be their only chance to experience what the pre-training camp venue and environment is like. And I wanted to get rid of a couple of those things that I heard from their coaches about, you know, it's hot in Perth, but it's not hot and humid in Perth, and it's definitely not hot or humid in Perth in June or July prior to the Olympic Games. So we wanted to take them there after World Juniors, train them for 10 days. We actually did a time trial on about day 7 just for them to experience the difference coming off PBs at World Juniors to what it's actually like to compete in these conditions. And we got more than we bargained for because we actually had a heat wave run through Japan at the time. And that moment you can see there on that ice block is, that's what people want to do in a stinking hot day. They want to do that. And that particular monkey is this same type of monkey that spends most of their time sitting in hot water because they live in the cold climates. Now, I did this contrast because we're actually training in the southern states of Australia, preparing for high heat, high humidity races in the northern hemisphere. And these are the things. This is 23rd of July, so if you want to know where these stories come from, this is around the time of the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games in 2 years' time. So over the course of this week, they had up to 165 heat-related deaths, mainly in the elderly population. So what we're seeing from the International Olympic Committee is where there is concern, probably less for the athletes, but there's more concern for spectators sitting out in the hot sun, watching a lot of these Olympic events. I'm going to recommend something that we all read. This came to me early last year, and a lot of the things that I'm going to do, and I'm sure Adam will make this available to you all, and I know that Julian, who's down the back of the room, will speak later, had a bit to do with this document. I'll pull out select parts of this document and we'll go through it and how it impacts and how we're going to come around some of the things that we've got coming up. So just to pull a quote out of it straight away, we've heard Craig talk about we don't want to be alarmist, but we do want people to understand that according to this document, we're about to face the most challenging environmental conditions ever observed in the modern history of the Olympic Games. We heard Craig talking about Barcelona, Atlanta, I've talked about Athens, Beijing Olympic Games, but this document's talking another level again. Now, some sports that doesn't matter, there's lots of indoor sports, there's lots of water-based sports, but we're probably going to be suffering the most being an outdoor, on-legs, low-carrying type of sport. And we can see there that it's going to detail some of the effects of that. I am going to talk about the way we came around and overcame these problems in 2008, and I know Philo down the back of the room, we worked together very closely with Gary Slater from Nutrition at the time, and we came up with a whole raft of altitude models, heat acclimation, and also ingestion protocols for in-race feeding, which were absolutely paramount. And the difference between Jared coming 3rd or 8th in the 20K, and it also freed him up with a medal in his back pocket to race differently in the 50 than he would have you didn't have a medal. So our preparation model looked a bit like this. I'm going to show you some data of the 21 days prior to us entering the altitude house. We did a 21-day stint of living in the altitude house, which was at 3,000 metres, and we were training at 600 metres altitude. We came out of the house for an adaptation week, so just to sleep in his own bed, eat his own food, lower the training volume, just to allow some adaptation, a bit of a recovery week. And then we went back in for another 2 weeks. We had 3 days out of the altitude house, and then he flew and went to Kochi in Japan. So across that, we're talking about 97 days now, across that whole period we've got some training markers. The weekly average through that 3-week period was 135 kilometres. That 3-week period had a 20-mile race in the middle of it, so we really trained in the front half of that week. He finished the week with a 20-mile race. We had a few days off legs, and we finished the week with some volume as well, but obviously it's not a 3-week normal training block. When he moved into the altitude house, we're now 6 weeks from departure, this is when we started to do a heat acclimation session. So this is where we're doing, in an artificial heat chamber, 32 degrees, 60 degrees, 60% humidity, just easy 1-hour sessions. And we're only doing this once a week. But you can see there the average across those 3 weeks was 171 kilometres. So, this is not including the warm-up and warm-downs, it's stuff that's measurable. So we're probably looking at 180, 190 kilometres on lengths a week through that period. So it's a big volume. And it took us the whole Olympic cycle to get Jared to those sort of volumes along the way. The week he was out of the house, we not only had a drop in the amount of training that he was doing at race pace, or above 4 mil long thresholds, but we also had just an easier off legs. Long walks were a bit less, a couple of afternoon sessions we dropped off. And then we put him back in the altitude house for 2 weeks. So it's a big altitude exposure. I'll make these slides available to everyone through Adam and Athletics Australia, so you can more than happy for these to be distributed. There's no secrets in this, and it's 10 years old anyway, so that's, and I tried to summarise this as best we could. Now, we did 6 weeks of heat acclimation. The difference in this last 2 weeks was we took out one of his high intensity sessions that we were doing outdoors, and we did it indoors in the heat chamber. And there was a bit of debate about that. It was pretty hard to convince Jared to sacrifice something that he really valued outdoors to do it indoors and on the treadmill. And that went for about 80 minutes because we spent the first half hour actually bringing his core temperature up through a long warm-up process, and then he started doing either 1K or 1,500 metre reps on the treadmill at race pace. And even in his recovery, we weren't letting him leave the room. So it was quite a brutal experience as well. And then, by the way, I haven't mentioned this, we've got our daytime 7 AM training temperatures down the bottom from when we were in Canberra. And then we all of a sudden go and drop him into an environment where his 7 AM temperatures are 26 degrees and 80% humidity. So the 6-week acclimation period leading in was to allow that transition in temperature where we weren't programming intentional drops in intensity. So in the last 2-3 weeks before a major championships, you won't find any coaching theory that tells you it'll tell you have to gradually reduce volume. It'll always talk about an increase in intensity as well. Now, one thing we learned from Osaka the previous year was the minute we arrived into Kochi prior to the Osaka World Championships was the program that I had written on paper we couldn't actually do. Every coach likes to have 5 days out of the championships, I do this key session, 10 days out, I do this other higher volume session, but you're only in the hot weather for your 3rd or 4th day. And I think we tried to do that, and he slipped off the target times or what we were expecting very early on, and it just became this long suffering session that we probably didn't need to do. And we learned from that the following year. Now, the other thing that this report will talk about is the impacts on the different time of the day and week and evening. Now, what they're talking about here is the fact that by 11 a.m, some of the most brutal weather conditions to be doing any endurance events is happening. That's the peak part of the day. So that's when we're starting to nudge 30 degrees, the humidity is still 70%, and sunrise is at 5 a.m, so you've got 6 hours of the sun sitting higher in the sky. One thing we did learn from Kochi is training at 5 p.m, just before sunset, even though it's 32 degrees, was far more mild than 8 a.m. when it was 90% and 26 degrees. So some of the afternoon easy sessions were, we couldn't flip our main session around because we actually had morning races, but I don't know how we're specifically going to do this for evening races in Doha because we've got morning races in Tokyo, so we've got a few challenges over the next little bit. Now that's important because when you look at the only thing we've got as a point of reference was the 2007 results. So the only time we can compare what we're going to face in Tokyo was we had a World Championships in 2007. So that's the result of that particular championships, and you can see there you've got a 7 a.m. start. The race finishes at 10:16, you've got the weather conditions there. Starting at 28 degrees, it's finishing at 33. Although the winners probably finished when it was 31 or 32. And you've got there what you would consider not fast times. So it has a direct impact on performance. Very good runners still run at World Championships, or it might be debatable whether the best go because of some of the lucrative deals that are on offer on the marathon circuit. But I don't think there's any doubt that Luke Cabetta at that time was the best, if not one of the best marathon runners in the world. But we're only talking a time that was outside of the women's world record. And these things were replicated in the out-of-stadium walk events. The difference being the walkers were finishing after 11 o'clock. And I know that never in a championship was there a bigger disparity between the guys who did well and the rest of the group between 8th, 10th, 12th. So people who prepared well still did solid times, but the gap between 1st and 8th in this race was made it, when you look at the results, it looks like it was a very almost non-competitive event. And then we had the men's 20k walk, which finished in 34 degrees, and also you can see as the temperature rises, humidity goes down, but I can tell you that was a very, that's one of the slowest performances over the last 20 years to win a championships. So you can see there you've got impact on performance. Now, I thought I'd throw this one in here because I sat in the stadium at the Beijing World Championships in 2015 and watched a lady run sub 11 seconds in the 100 metres, and on the same morning there were 2 men run under 44 seconds in the 400 metres in round 1. When I'm talking semis, finals, it was round 1. So what we're talking about is having a direct impact on performance negatively. The opposite's happening. These guys are actually going to run in favourable conditions, and you might even see some early round times if you're in a competitive meet where these things happen. And this is the first time this has ever happened in the championship. I've never seen a championship where people run under 44 seconds in the 400 metres, or women running 10:88 in round 1. I've mentioned it, and I'm hoping that Julian will go over some of these things as well, but this was the thing that we've noticed most is the 3 factors of temperature. We all look at 30 degrees and go, yeah, it's 30 degrees. You combine it with humidity, and the other thing is radiant heat from the sun. And I don't know what the course, I haven't looked at the course in Tokyo yet. This isn't going to be a problem, of course, with Doha, because everyone knows that we're starting our races at midnight in Doha. So our marathoners will be running at 11:59 p.m. till 2 a.m. in the morning, and the walkers, the 50k walk's not going to finish till 4 a.m. in the morning. So that's what we've got. So it does increase the heat factor of what we're going to be exposed to. Now the other thing about when looking at temperature is the IAAF on its results sheet has switched to a wet bulb temperature. So when you see race results historically, it doesn't look as hot as what it actually is, because the wet bulb temperature reading is a lot more severe than what Janie Seale's talking about on the weather that she reports on Channel 9 HTV. While I was in Japan earlier this year, I just had a look. Now I prepared this document, and the day that I took this temperature was the day that they announced the start times for the marathon and the walks. Now, They'd already moved it from the 7:30 to 7 a.m, but on this day they announced it was going to be 6 a.m. So we're now at 6 a.m. starts. I did get up the next morning at 5 a.m, which was warm-up time, and note that it was quite clear and it was already warm. And you can see there our guys are going to be warming up in 26 degrees and 99% humidity. So that then is going to adjust how you warm up, I would hope. I'm not going to tell everyone this much, but we also, every time we watch a cricket match or we watch the Australian Open tennis, and I'll tell you it's 50 degrees out on court. You measure temperature in the shade, but you've also got this feels like temperature, and that's a combination of everything: heat, humidity, radiant heat, and obviously once you start moving your body, whether it be marathon pace at just under 20 kilometres an hour or the men walking at just under 15, you've got to have. This is the thing that our organisers are most concerned about, more for the general public who are sitting in stands in direct sunlight. So when they're talking about 50 degree, it feels like temperatures, these are what we're running in. And it's the reason why we send our little friend here doing this. I'm just going to move through and show you why that's a problem, because in 2008, we all know that that's the image of the bird's nest, but most of you wouldn't recognise that just outside the bird's nest we had a 1K stretch, a very, what we call Chinese unimaginative way to do a course. It was dead straight, it was 1 kilometre, and you do a point turn and you come around and you do 25 laps a day or 10 laps a day. And you can see that there's not any shade at all on that course. So based on what we've just heard, these were pretty tough conditions. I don't know what we're going to get in Tokyo. Doha, we're at night, so it doesn't really matter, but you can see here that these are some of the things that aren't going to work in our favour. Or, if we prepare correctly, these then become your competitive advantage. Now, one of the most, looking at this page in the document, what it does, it actually gives you a nice traffic light system for past Olympic venues and a rating on, there you go, you've got alarming, challenging and tolerable. So, if we use that rating and check past results, there's all your race results from Osaka, and that's in your alarming. There's all the venues that were listed as challenging, and if I've averaged those performances, you can see there that past hot weather events, athletes are still able to do well in those conditions. Now, if we go to the events that was considered, I don't know what we consider this, what was the definition they used, but you can see here there's not much difference between some favourable conditions and challenging, but the difference between challenging and alarming really plays its part. So again, we're only talking the out-of-stadium events here. Once you get over 50, 60 minutes of high intensity aerobic activity, then you're going to see that it impacts on time. So we know that they're going to be slower times, but we also see some surprise results in these conditions as well. Now, if we're looking at about suitability of our competitors, I'm going to reference this with some of these championships and what I know about what's happening in certain event groups. What we've got here is Japan should be at a distinct advantage, and I know that they have a targeted event policy, and right now their men's race walking team is the number one in the world in the absence of the Russians, and they've just eclipsed the Chinese, and they've even come to the AIS to do training camps, and they bring service support around them, which I find unbelievable. So they're coming into the AIS that had all of this living on site, and they actually travel with team doctors, physios, environmental physiologists, and a whole team of staff, and they just fly in and out support staff. So they are way ahead of what we were doing in 2008, and we had a good depth in our program, and they've even got better depth now. And to make things worse, this is their recent record. They've got the world record holder in men's 20k walk. They had silver and bronze medal in London last year in a 50k walk. And as a point of reference, we all know that Japanese has a great marathon and running culture without having the very best in the world. But in 2007, they had 4 in the top 8 in Osaka at World Champs Marathon. So that doubles as a World Cup event. So the one on the photo there is them winning a medal in the teams championships, or actually winning the teams championships, and then we've got the two walkers from London last year. China is another nation that, you know, they've got very similar environmental conditions, and then they've also got a short travel time, and they've also got such a big country with all sorts of environmental conditions, from having altitude centres all over the place and also some very hot humid weather to contend with. And they've also got the current Olympic champions in the men's and 20k, men's and women's 20k walk, and also one of those ladies is the world record holder. So for me, this is what we're taking on. And then we've got something that I've taken advantage of lately is I've just discovered altitude venues in South America, because most of our altitude regions around the world are close to us half the year because of ski seasons, and we go to these equatorial regions, and everyone's been going to Bogota lately at 2,500 metres, which has a min of 10 and a max of 20 all year round. It rains a little more at some times of the year, but they are also only a couple of hours away from high heat, high humidity coastal regions. And so what we can see is Brazil has that, and for Colombia, they've actually got the reigning world champion in men's 20k walk, and they've got a young girl who was fifth. So we're already identifying who our competitors are and what they're likely to bring. So I talked about it being a competitive advantage, but I'm also suggesting that there's going to be other countries who we know are doing things that are going to make it hard for us. I haven't got internet here, but I was going to throw this in because we actually have our own venues here, and this was going to be a little video of, if anyone's seen it, Ronnie Johns doing the Chopperini impersonation of "I'll give you a weather forecast for Darwin," and said for the next 100,000 years it's just effing hot. Right, so we actually have some really good venues here, so we need to be going to, I know our distance runners went to Cairns recently. I'm going to go to Cairns next year with our guys, and I know that we've used Darwin in the past, and as a young fellow I grew up in Darwin, and I know that it's also very hot and humid there, and we need to be starting doing short doses of heat acclimatisation when we can through these areas here. So this is essentially where Jemima is going to be for the next 12 months. So I basically started with November, and we're going all the way down to Doha. Her qualification period is open, she's got a qualifying time, we're expecting her to be going, and we're planning accordingly around that. And what we can see there is I've tried where I can to have regular doses of where she's going to be training in 30 degrees. And what I've then got over there, we've got heat training. I've got how we can offset some of these by doing either heat acclimation or some passive heat training. So what we're trying to do is, once we've got her in a state where she has acclimatised, we've basically got her ready to race in those environments, we are then going to make sure she doesn't go through a de-acclimatisation process too deep into the winter months in Australia. And we're very lucky to do that because we've got a World University Games to go to, and we're just going to keep her overseas for that length of time. And we're going to put her into a training environment where I can find senior elite female walkers for her to train with, and be in a positive training environment, and also in some good weather as well. Now, to do some of that, I'm just going to show you, this is the way we did it in 2008. I feel I remember it took us a long time to work out how to pitch a tent in the blind mechanics lab and get that up to 32 degrees. And there's an in-ground treadmill there that Jared walked on. And this is the way we did things in 2007 and 8. This was also a really good way to incorporate some sports science into our daily training environment. So the two blokes in the tent there with him are Philo and Gary. And Gary Slater was doing all sorts of things around hydration status. So Jared had to present in a hydrated state. We were measuring sweat rates, ingestion protocols. We then started to work out and calculate what he actually needed to be drinking and ingesting during his event. So We got to the stage where we knew, and I can't remember exactly, but a number just jumped into my head. I think it was 146 millilitres per lap of an event. We knew that in the 50k you'd come past every 8 minutes, 40 to 9 minutes. So the person on the drink table's job was, he had a bottle, we had pre-mixed fluids, we knew that we were trying to get in approximately 60 to 70 grams of carbohydrate per hour of exercise. So the dose was pre-mixed. The person on the drink table had a line on the bottle that corresponded to the amount of liquid he needed to drink. It was filled to that line. So second job was he held the bottle out, Jared had to drink what he was given. We topped up his grams per carbohydrate by gels that way. We actually took that to a new level when we went to 2012. He did a 3 hour, 36 minute, which is the current Olympic record, and he was 89 grams of carbohydrate per hour of exercise. So these are the things that we were doing, but we weren't able to do unless we did this type of thing in the lead up. In that last 2 weeks, I was talking about the last 2 weeks of altitude, this is the type of session that we did. So you can see here it's got treadmill speed 13 kilometres down to 16.1. If anyone knows what an old commercial gym treadmill is, that's as fast as it would go, but that just so happened to be 3 minutes 48 a kilometre or 3:43 I think it was. That's pretty much as fast as we can walk. And we've got lactate readings there as well. We've got temperature and humidity. So 31.6 degrees and 60% with no airflow passing over you in a confined space is really, really tough. So that's probably, it can be as probably even more than what they'll face out there as well. So that was the last 2 weeks. We did 1k reps one week, and I think the next week we were doing 1500 metre reps. Each session he was given a feedback sheet like this. You won't be able to read this, but this is, in red there is feedback from Gary Slater, our dietitian, and it gives things like waking USG, how much he ingested during the session, what his sweat rates were. So these are the things that was going on. This is how we integrated sports science into what we were doing on a daily basis. This is the type of sessions we did once we landed in Kochi. So whether you want to call it a threshold, a tempo, a time trial, but he did a 14-kilometre session. This was about 10 days out from his first race, averaging 4:06 a kilometre. That's 1 hour 22 for a 20k. We weren't quite. At the time, we were probably thinking the race was going to be run in about 1 hour 21, but it turned out to be a 1 hour 19 race, and so that was a bit faster than what we forecast. Jared also was able to close in Beijing his last 10k at a PB of 38.59, so 3:54 a k. So we never in our imagination did we even envisage that one he would be able to replicate those times in Beijing, and also, we were hopefully win a medal, but that's the type of session. So they were the only 2 high quality sessions we did while we were in Kochi, and we did some 1k reps. Actually, he did some 400 reps on the track one evening as well. Now what we've got now is, these are some of the other things that we can do. So in that time when we're starting to deacclimatise and we're not in weather environments that are conducive, we're going to start to do some of this post-sauna, either spa bathing or sauna bathing. And we ran a study last year at the, that's one of the things we will do. I'll talk about the other one. Pretty cool thing, haven't mentioned this. We were the only ones who were brave enough to actually tell your athlete that what we're going to do is we're going to submerge you in an ice bucket before you race. And again, when you've got a young athlete, it's very, very easy to sell that because they'll follow you blindly. It's only when you get the older athletes who are experienced, it's very hard to convince them to do that. So what we did do, and this is the research that was done by Meg Ross, who's still at the AIS and still very much part of what we do and how we're preparing for Doha and Tokyo. So you're basically going to get a drop in your core temperature pre-race, and it will remain lower for 20 minutes. It buys you 20 minutes. What we found is we get to halfway point in the race and favourites were dropping off the lead pack, and Jared's just thinking, when's the race going to start? I'm actually just feeling pretty good. He'll still hit high temperatures later in the race, which mine will as well, but this, I can tell you, is one of the until people do it and do it properly and actually commit to doing it, I mean, we're very lucky that I haven't seen too many others doing it unless they've been involved with us, but I don't understand why people are not doing it. If you talk to the great Dick Telford about it, he said, oh yeah, we did this research in the 90s, but we didn't publish it because we didn't want anyone else to know. But he did the research on it, but he couldn't actually get athletes to do it before a race. So this is some of the things that we do. So bottom left-hand picture there is an example of, we went to our 2012 Olympic trial in Hobart. We had a 38-degree day, which I think was the second hottest day on record in Hobart. But we were doing that pre-race 2007, 2008. The second photo is, what then happens is, we just pop a cooling vest on, which is more about just keeping you cool. If you're lucky, you'll walk into an air-conditioned cooler room, and that's Jared going out to race 50k. And we were doing it pre-debut as well, so you can see there that this became a regular thing that we were doing in hot weather events. It's not always the easiest thing, and you've got to take a lot of ice baths if everyone wants to do it. Yeah. Alright, so just some basics behind this. We do a light warm-up first, so your body is actually already has its cooling system activated, it's giving off heat. We don't drop them into ice water, we put them into tepid or tap water, and then we add ice. Ideally, you've got to go quite a big length of time, but our guys are literally stepping out of the ice water, putting their uniform on and going into the pool room. So, I was talking about before, warm-up becomes less important for us than the pre-form. And you'll find that every hot weather championship has a nice pedestrian pace at the start anyway, so it doesn't really, it's almost like they do their warm-up in the first K of the race, and that's definitely going to be the case in the 50k, the 20k, and also the marathon. This was another way we did it. So we did some pre-cooling research last year in January, so this is a more practical way. It's a lot easier to get a slushy bucket of ice and some towels, but there's also the ingestion protocols, so you can actually internal cool. I know that the cyclists did that in 2008. We didn't do it in 2008 because we felt the volume of liquid that you're putting in your stomach, you know, when you're walking and running, your stomach's essentially a washing machine. So for the cyclists, it's a lot easier than it is for our guys. But we tried that, and we're also doing some of the menthol, which also almost triggers your brain to think that you're cooler than what you are. So that's some of the research that we're doing. This year's research is around, we're doing the post-training spa and sort of bathing. So afternoon easy sessions is what we're doing. So in terms of what we're going to do now, we do plan to do annual camps in Wakayama. I really was hoping we could practice 2019 prior to 2020. It's just not going to be feasible for us to come back from Europe, via Japan, and then off to Doha in terms of when you're looking at flights. And I'm not uncomfortable about training in hot and humid and competing in hot and dry. And I think the benefits of doing that would be strong, but I still haven't worked out exactly what we're going to do in that last 10 days prior to actually going into Doha yet. I've got a few options. I was just talking about Tenerife. I know Cyprus has come up, and whether we just maintain some of our treadmill heat stuff in that last 10 days, and exactly the timing of when we arrive into Doha is also, I've never been there, I know people who have, but I don't think it's a conducive training environment. But I'm more concerned about Tokyo than I am about Doha. We've got heat acclimation before arriving in, so I'm a big fan of acclimation before acclimatisation, because you want to actually not have to modify your training too much in that first 5 to 6 days when you arrive in a hot weather venue. You do actually want to just step off the plane and start to do your intensity days when you need to do them. We've got options of University of Canberra and Victoria University have good environmental changes, and I know the VIS has, just behind your office block, they've got a tent set up where you can actually wheel in treadmills, and very similar to the one I showed you before. We've also got Darwin's cans as options as well for domestic heat cans. I was talking about our January heat study, and this is a 3-day period or a sample of what we're doing. So we're just doing easy walks. That's a Monday, some reps on a Monday evening. But on Tuesday and Wednesday, after the afternoon session, the guys are then going to go and submerge themselves in the spa for, they say 40 minutes we put in, but I'm trying to negotiate that down a bit because I know how uncomfortable that is. We're actually doing this in January as well, so they're actually going to be out at 30 degrees anyway and then doing this. So we're going to go pretty aggressively this January in doing it, because before we actually want to introduce it and work out what our protocols are for 2020, we want to actually trial it and get the athletes used to the idea of doing it this way. So these guys will be monitored for temperature while they're doing this as well. I wanted to say that the pre-cooling aspect, I can tell you that first and second, so Jemima and Alana Barber finished 2% outside of their qualification time at the event at Gold Coast. The next best in the race was 5%, and most of the race finished between 8 and 10%. That's how much it affected performance, and I think that's how much the pre-cooling, more than the other stuff we did, had a direct impact on the day. And I really think that that's something that we need to practice, reverse, get your athletes comfortable with the idea of doing it. And it may even help us to actually go and seek out some hot weather events just to practice it before. So things that are not important, we know that the marathoners are very much locked into their marathon choices around how fast they can run and appearance fees and things like that. But with a view to Tokyo, it wouldn't be better for them to go and do a half marathon and practice these type of things if that at all possible, or even in a training sense. So I know that by the time we rock into 2020, we'll have a plan refined in what we want to do for Jemima, and hopefully that's going to give us a competitive advantage, because at the moment she's about 5 minutes off the best girls in the world. We're going to close that by 2 or 3 minutes, but on the day we're hoping we can make up for that difference by some of this stuff that we're introducing. I'm going to move on, I'm conscious of time, so thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Or we can just go and have lunch.